friends, and welcome to Sustainable Prepping, your home for fear-free emergency preparedness and a sustainable life. My name is Brecky, and today we are going to be talking about 5 things that you can do since time is tight. Now, if you're new here, I want to say a great big welcome. I'm glad you found my slice of the internet. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss any emergency preparedness content. We're going to dive right in because there is a lot to talk about, and I want to make this a snappy video so you can get cracking on any of these 5 recommendations. Now, things are still pretty spicy over in Russia and Ukraine. As of the filming of this video, it looks like the Russian push eastward is advancing, albeit slowly, and there is some possibility of a famous and well-known Russian military general going to take command, which could change the course of events. There has been some whispering about Russia moving nuclear weapons and also how involved NATO is going to be in the region and in supporting Ukraine, supporting Poland, who's getting a little bit anxious, supporting Bulgaria, who has been attacked now. There's just some big concerns about what's happening in Eastern Europe. Additionally, there's some tension growing in China as they have widespread lockdowns because of COVID again, also with Taiwan. And let's not forget that there's other conflicts brewing around the world. There have been riots in Central and South America because people are not able to get the food that they need. There is widespread concern about famine, not just because of increasing grain prices, because it's looking like this summer there could be some disruptions to the growing season due to storms around the world. So it's just looking like it could be a very tense spring and summer. So if you're watching this video and you're thinking, okay, Brocky, I need to do something, I don't know what to do, I'm totally overwhelmed, I'm gonna give you 5 things that you can get started on right now. Now, the first thing I wanna say is I assume that you have at least 3 days, if not a full week of water. If you don't have a full week of water, like, don't do anything else. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Go to the grocery store and buy enough water for your family for a minimum of 3 days and up to a week. Once you have your water storage, then you can come back for the rest of this video. But I'm going to assume that you have water storage because you've been watching my videos. Okay, after water storage, the next thing that you should be doing right now, because time is of the essence, is storing some grains. Go ahead and store grains. Grains are still pretty cheap. In fact, most rice is still less than $1 a pound. So while it's still under $1 a pound, while it's very cheap to get, go buy you some rice. You might only be able to buy $5 worth. Okay, go get 5 pounds of rice. Go get 25 pounds of rice. Go get 50 pounds of rice. Now, you are going to need to store that appropriately, and there's lots of different ways to do that. I have some videos that I will make sure get linked so you can see different ways that I store it, but if you need to do it on the cheap, go ahead and buy the rice, okay? And if you have soda pop bottles or plastic juice containers, wash them out really well, dry them out really well. You can start storing rice in those for long-term storage. They're not perfect, but that is an option while you are saving up to buy Mylar bags and other things of that nature. If you have access to food grade buckets that you can store it in, go ahead and dump it straight in the bucket, especially if it's food you plan on using and rotating regularly. So if you're going to be using it in your kitchen. But go get your grains. You can get corn, you can get wheat, you can get flour, whatever grain that you use regularly, go get it and go get it now because it's still pretty cheap for most of us and it's worth investing in. It lasts a long time as long as it's stored appropriately in a cool, dry, dark place, sealed so that bugs can't get in it. And if you want to store it for long term, more than a few months to a year, you're going to need to use an oxygen absorber so that no microscopic insects hatch in the space. Again, video talking about it all. Check it out. Okay, the second thing that you should be doing right now, because time is tight and you need to make the time investment, you need to make the money investment, is storing your preferred protein. You're gonna go get your grains, you're gonna go get your protein of choice. Now, this is gonna be dictated by a couple of things. How much money do you have? If you've got some money to spend, you can invest in higher quality proteins. If money is tight, you're probably gonna be looking at things like dried legumes, so black beans, pinto beans, cannellini beans, lentils. You're going to be looking at legumes. If you can eat those. If you can't eat those, you might have to figure out some other options. Now, this is going to push you in a couple of different directions. The first thing is you're probably going to have to drop some money on storing your preferred protein. The more money you spend, the higher quality protein that you're going to have. If time is tight, but you have a little bit excess income, I would totally tell you to invest in freeze-dried protein. Why? Because you can set it and forget it. It's there to go. It's very easy to use. You just rehydrate it. You stick it in a soup. You stick it in a casserole, whatever, and it's there. I think that if you have the income to do so, ordering a couple of big number 10 cans or even the pantry size cans, if you are going to go through Thrive Life, is a really good way to get proteins. Particularly if you get the pantry cans, you can practice with them. If you're interested in Thrive Life, of course, I'll have my link down below. I am technically a consultant, y'all. I don't do it for the money. I do it because I buy it myself anyway. So that, if you have the money and you're tight on time, is a great way to go. Now, if you have a little bit of money, but you have a little bit of time, then learning to can your own meat, if that's your preferred protein, or beans, if that's your preferred protein, is a great way. Buying your own meat or beans and canning them yourself is cheaper in the long run. However, you have to have time. Now, that's a great thing because you learn the skill of canning, and that's something you can start practicing now. But if you are someone who works a lot, it might be a bridge too far. If you have time and you want to invest in learning how to preserve your own preferred protein, particularly if it's an animal source protein, you can look at things like learning how to cure your own meat, smoke your own meat, dehydrate your own meat. Those are all skills that you can start developing now before meat is totally scarce as you build your protein stores and your protein supplies. This is something to do now, but you have to have the time to do it. So evaluate what resources you have, what time you have. Time is a commodity, y'all. Time is a resource. And if you're someone who is working 60, 70, 80 hours a week right now, if you have several small children at home and you are the primary caregiver, or you're caring for an elderly adult, or something where your time is really tight, your free time is very limited, then the skills part of storing a protein may not be ideal for you. And again, investing something like dried beans, which are a set it and forget it kind of protein, or freeze-dried meats, if you have the money to do that, would probably be a better use of your time and resources. The third thing that you need to be doing right now is inventorying and cleaning out your fridge and freezer. I've already talked about this in other videos, but it bears repeating. Your fridge and freezer space are a precious commodity, and the only thing you want to be storing there are things that are high value. That could mean letting go of a few things that you've stored and you haven't used up because they aren't as high of a value. And if you can find a way to use them up, great. But your fridge and freezer space, particularly your freezer space, and if it's only attached to your fridge freezer, like you only have that much space, it's even more precious because there's not a lot of it. It needs to be saved for the higher ticket items, the items that are going to go up exponentially in cost as time goes on. Now, in my video on recession proofing your pantry, which I will link up above, I talk a lot more about how to do this and what you should be prioritizing. But in a nutshell, use up what you can, store the most expensive stuff and the stuff that's going to explode in price, and make sure that that freezer really works well for you. The fourth thing that you should be doing right now before the crisis hits is to buy some seeds and start growing. It doesn't matter if you get a 5-gallon bucket, punch some holes in the bottom, get some dirt and just grow some carrots or some lettuce. That's fine. But start the practice of knowing how things grow and learning about how seeds germinate, what they need, what care they need, and have some seeds on hand. You may not be able to currently grow everything that you would like to, especially if you live in an apartment or condo, someplace without a lot of land attached to it where you can grow things, but buy a few little packages of mixed salad, buy carrots, buy legumes, right? Buy some pole beans or some bush beans that you can eventually plant. Buy a handful of those things, stick some of them in a Ziploc bag, have it stored away, but have the seeds on hand and at least start practicing. Even if it's a windowsill garden where you're growing chives and basil, have that, because learning the skill of how to care for a seedling as it grows into a plant and how to use that plant is going to serve you if a real big crisis hits. The fifth and final thing that you should be doing now before the crisis hits, but while the time is of the essence, is to invest your time and resources in learning to cook from scratch. Seriously, learn to cook at home from basic staples. I don't mean open a jar of masala sauce and pour it over some frozen chicken in the crock pot and walk away. That's totally useful, and I do that all the time, but that's not actually learning to cook from scratch. Learn how to make the masala sauce. Learn how to make your favorite bread product. For us and our family, we love biscuits. So if the the proverbial shizzle hits the proverbial fizzle, I'm not going to be making bread. I'm going to be making biscuits. I can survive just fine on biscuits without a loaf of bread. Would I like a loaf of bread? Sure. But that's not the skill I'm honing. I'm honing with things that we enjoy the most. So practice with those things. Practice making oatmeal that doesn't come from a little packet. Practice baking a casserole without a set recipe. Practice making some soup mixes or sauces yourself. You don't have to do it every night. You don't have to radically transform your life and do it every night, but maybe commit that once a week, twice a week, you make a from scratch meal so that you're practicing your kitchen skills. One of the things that we need to remember is that a crisis isn't likely just going to be an acute situation where you're having to flee your home and then you're in, like a refugee center or you're at your bug out location, yada, yada, yada. What's most likely going to happen is that there is an acute situation somewhere, and that where you are, right, where you hopefully will be, is just a place that's going to experience lots of lack of stuff. So you're going to shelter in place until it's no longer safe to shelter in place, which could mean months. And if you're eating from your food storage, if you're eating from the basic materials, you are going to need to know how to make the most out of it. You don't want to learn how to make a casserole when everybody's already hungry. You don't want to learn how to make a loaf of bread when people are depending on you turning out something that's edible, right? You want to have a comfortable grasp, maybe not master it, but have a comfortable grasp of how to use those kitchen skills now so that you can equip them for the future. Those are my 5 recommendations of things that you can do right now, because we all see the crisis coming, so do those things now. But I'm going to give you a bonus, and the bonus is to read. Yes, yes, yes. Read with your eyeballs or your ear holes if you listen to audiobooks, but read, 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 read. Reading can teach you so much. Read books on skills you're interested in. Read books on kitchen skills, herbal skills, bushcrafting. Read historical books like the Laura Ingalls series, which talks about all the things that mom and pa have to do to keep them afloat. Read memoirs of people that you admire. Read books on character building. Read books on how to repair stuff. Acquire books. Ebooks are fine, but in a grid down situation, you may not be able to access them. So if they're a book that you find important, buy it in physical copy and have it on your shelves. But read, 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 read. Everybody should be reading anyway, but it's especially concerning as we see potential crises on the horizon that you are educating yourself and that you are preparing your mind. Friends, comment down below and let me know, what would you add to this list? What are some things that we should be doing right now that are easy, accessible, that people can start working on today to prepare for this crisis that we see looming in the future? If you would like to continue this conversation, of course, meet me in the comments, but you can also visit me on my Facebook page, which is linked down below, as well as on Instagram. I am trying to be much more active there. The last couple of weeks have been really busy, but I am almost at summer and I am excited to continue these conversations, potentially have some live streams going, and really build up this community so we are sharing our knowledge and our enthusiasm and our encouragement for one another. I hope you guys are all doing well, and until the next video, happy prepping.